To change behaviour is really difficult, and one thing that can change behaviour is a big shock in the system. And we've just had a big global shock in the system for everybody. My name's Claire O'Neill. I'm the co-founder of a not-for-profit organisation called A Greener Festival. We've been assessing festivals around the world for the last 14 years or so, and we also work with the live music industry towards a more sustainable way of doing things. Just before the lockdown, I was actually part of Tribal Gathering Festival. We were over there doing the Greener Festival assessment and training up new assessors, and we actually got quarantined in the Panamanian jungle. Therefore, coming back home after almost not being able to get home, I've been very grateful to be here, and it was actually surprising how liberating a loss of freedom could be. I feel like for the first time I've been able to really take a step back and take a breath. Pretty much all of the festivals for the rest of the year have been cancelled, which clearly has got a huge impact on people's livelihoods, including all of us at a Greener Festival. You know, there's the economic machine, as it were, has been stopped. But what we're really focusing in on now is sustainability holistically. So not only to see how we can make better business models that support environment and people, but also with the pandemic and the things that come from that, such as more water for hand washing, the chemicals that may be used, driving instead of taking public transport. These are things that we really need to carefully think about now, that we don't end up undoing all of the good work that's already been done. We're actually working on a project with We Love Green, which is the Green Europe experience, and it's with Boom Festival in Portugal, Door Festival in Belgium, Pahoda Festival in Slovakia. The idea is we try to reshape the production model of festivals by approaching scenography and food in particular. Traditional setups of festivals have got a few different ways that it can be a negative impact on the environment, and that could be travel, especially audience travel if it's not in a city centre, for example, or if it's quite an international audience. There's also production travel if there's a lot of trucking, and artist travel as well. Then there's the amount of materials that are brought in. Plus you have food, which is one of our biggest impacts on our environment. The way that we produce food and whether we waste food are extremely significant, especially for our impact on land use globally. So one of the best things that any organiser can do is first engage the local community as much as possible. Find where there is local supply for food or materials or people and artists. Something called a materials flow analysis is very good to do, and this is something that Digital Festival in Amsterdam do very well. It's a concept of looking at all of the materials that you're going to bring into the site, and that could be anything from decor, food, marquees, sound systems, everything that comes in, and then make sure that you have a plan for what's going to happen with that afterwards. You really need to be careful of bringing in something that seems like it would be a green solution and then finding that you've got nowhere to put it afterwards. We've seen quite a lot of that, for instance, with biomaterials, etc. I hope that there will be some sustained positive changes as a result of what's happening right now. To change behaviour is really difficult, and one thing that can change behaviour is a big shock in the system. And we've just had a big global shock in the system for everybody. One of the things that I think may be a positive to come from this is that we realise we're not bigger than the environment that we live in, and if the ecosystem is unbalanced, then it has a direct impact on our ability to live. I mean, there is the part of me that's me as a little girl that thinks of Grease, the movie, is like, oh yeah, the drive-in. But then the other part of me that grew up, I can completely understand why they're happening. And for one, it is a chance for people to come together and experience something collectively. There's a lot of artists, production teams, and who need to make a living as well. And it is also a creative outlet. That's also something that, people really want. But at the same time, we've just spent 10 years trying to get people to get out of their cars. And now we're saying, get in your car, but only 2 of you at a time. The problem with that is the amount of local air pollution you then create. And thousands of cars driving into one space together is not going to help in the case of a respiratory pandemic.